All right, let's talk about The Batman. It stars Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, and Colin Farrell. This is a reboot of the Batman series. It's directed by Matt Reeves, who I remember from a horror film called Let Me In. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Very, very good movie. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and get into this. It will have some spoilers, some slight spoilers, not a lot. So if that bothers you, exit stage left. But if you don't mind spoilers, or if I've already seen the film, hang out. And yeah, let me just tell you my feelings on this film. So it's really good. It's very good. I would say it's not the best Batman film ever, but it's in that upper echelon. I would say that there is good and bad things in this film, but the good definitely outweighs the bad, and that's why I think it's a very good film. I'll start off talking about the good things that I liked. Actually really loved Robert Pattinson's performance as Batman. The thing I like the most about this is that he is Batman in this thing. He's not, it's not this Bruce Batman kind of back and forth. No, it's like this film, he is like 90% Batman in this movie. Like, you barely see Bruce Wayne at all, and I like that. I like that about this film. It's dark, right? And Batman is dark, and Batman is disturbed. He's almost like a head case, He's like, there's something wrong with this guy, and he's this lost soul that's kind of just wandering through the city, trying to figure things out, trying to find solutions for his life, and that's what I got out of Pattinson's performance. And exactly what you would think about if there was a dude walking around like a bat, like punching out crime or whatever. You would think like, yeah, man, what's wrong with this guy? There's something wrong with this. Seriously wrong with this guy. And that's the feeling that you get from Pattinson's performance. I also liked that there is a dynamic between Batman and Jim Gordon that we really haven't seen in live action film. You get it in the comics and some of the cartoons and the animated films. You don't see it very much in live action, and that's them working together almost like teammates. It's like, okay, you got Batman trying to solve something. Jim Gordon normally just pops up, puts up the bat signal, tells Batman what's going on, poof, he's gone. This is Jim Gordon and Batman as teammates, kind of just walking through the city, trying to figure out what's going on. They're going on the case together. That I really enjoyed. I thought that was a great dynamic, and there's great chemistry between the two actors. Worked out perfectly. And then the villains are well drawn, they're well acted. I was actually surprised that John Turturro was in the film. I didn't know. I just walked in, sat down, and the first time I realized John Turturro was in there was when I was sitting in my seat saying, whoa, is that John Turturro? That's exactly what happened. And I was like, this is awesome. And I mean, John Turturro chews up every scene that he's in. If you know this guy, he's a phenomenal actor. Paul Dano plays a great Riddler. He's not in it as much as I was hoping he would be in it, but still very, very powerful when he's there. I thought Colin Farrell as the Penguin was great. Again, another great actor who just knows how to dominate a scene and get the most out of it. He really brings a different type of style and personality to this particular character, and that's kind of like what Batman villains are anyway, right? Like, Batman villains are great because they're well drawn. They have different distinct kind of motivations. Everything is different with them, so and then they're clashing with this guy in a costume, and that's what really makes Batman work for the most part. I thought this was a great reintroduction of the villains, Batman's coterie of supervillains. I'm gonna keep using that because that was in Peacemaker and I loved it. So yeah, I thought that those were the strong things, and also the noir theme of this really works well, and the soundtrack is phenomenal as well. They both go together. The darkness, the despair of the soundtrack, it really comes out. I thought that was really great. All right, so in terms of the bad things, the runtime. This thing is 3 hours long, and it feels like a 3-hour movie. Remember I said sometimes a 3-hour movie doesn't feel like a 3-hour movie, it feels like a 2-hour movie. This feels like a 3-hour movie, and that's unfortunate. And it's weird why it does, because like the first act, like the movie is moving along at a pretty good pace. It's like, okay, we get right into it, got the first murder, okay, and it's moving fast to get Batman and Jim on the case. It's like, great, all right, cool. And then the second act starts, and it's like it's solid, good pacing, plenty of action. You have a heightened tension and emotions, and you got a great car chase in there, and then there's some mystery and there's some reveals, and we're finally seeing where this thing is going. It's like, okay, and then we get to this third act, and this third act goes on forever, and it just drags. And it's like, why, Matt? Slim down that third act. And I know why it did, okay? And I'm gonna tell you what happened here. There's a reveal about Catwoman towards either the end of the second act or the beginning of the third. It's right in there. I gotta rewatch this film to see it again, and it's something that was not introduced in the beginning of the film. And I don't know why they felt they had to put this in, but it feels forced. It's clumsy how they put this thing in there. It's fine that it's in, but it's like it's kind of wedged and shoehorned into a spot, and then they got to spend time dealing with it, and that's what drags that third act out. Everything else up until that point, fine, but then you got this one little nugget that comes in, and it's like, that didn't have to be there, Matt. Like, or if you put it in there, set it up earlier, and then it flows naturally through the rest of the narrative. The way they put it in, it just didn't work, at least for me. Maybe it worked for some people, didn't work at all for me. And it really didn't add anything necessarily that was important to the story. It was just kind of like, okay, this is important to Catwoman's story, and maybe this is why Catwoman is who she is, but it really didn't add anything to the story that was being told about Batman, the Riddler, Carmine Falcone, and the whole Penguin thing. Yeah, it involved Falcone, but like I said, I don't want to give too much of it away, but I did think that that was the thing that made that third act super, super long. And then it just takes so long to finally wrap up. Another thing that was bad about this is that it really feels constrained by the rating. Really, it feels constrained by its rating. It's a PG-13 film that feels like it wanted to be rated R. So you can kind of feel that everything is held back, like somebody's got a rope around this thing, and they're just, nah, you're going too far, come on back here. And it's like, come on, man, I want to be rated R. I want to play with the big boys. Nope, get back over here to PG-13 land. And that's what this thing felt like. I felt like, hey, at some point in time, it's like, we got to get to this point where they're saying, look, we're making a rated R Batman film. Deal with it, okay? We're doing it, deal with it. That's just the way it's going to be. I think that this film could have been better than what it was if they didn't feel constrained by the rating. Again, that's just my opinion, personal opinion. The last thing, and this is kind of 50-50 for me, was it's a detective movie, right? So there's like this race going on. There's a race that's going on between Batman and Jim Gordon and the Riddler, okay? And that's what every detective movie is. It's like, okay, or, you know, you're trying to figure out what's happening. You got a guy killing people. He's killing people, and he's one step ahead. And Jim and Batman are one step behind. All right, okay, cool. We're trying to follow him, you know, beat him to the punch, find out who he's going to kill before he kills him. You know, we're trying to go in that direction. And unfortunately, Batman stays one step behind the entire film. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I feel like at some point in time, he should have caught up and kind of got ahead of the Riddler, and then, haha, gotcha, I knew you was coming here, and now you're under arrest, or something like that. But it just never gets there, and that's unfortunate, because I thought that, you know, that element would have been, you know, even better to make the movie a little bit better. But, you know, everybody has their own opinions. I think that Batman playing catch up the whole film and never really catching him until like at the very end, he kind of catches him, but it's not really a win, you know, because, you know, basically the Riddler got away with everything. So yeah, that's unfortunate for me, but you know, that's how I look at it. All right, let's go ahead and see what the scores have to say. All right, the Batman. Let's go ahead and check out the scoreboard, see what we got. First up, direction. So Matt Reeves did Let Me In, like I mentioned earlier. Directed the 2 Planet of the Apes films, great films. Also did Cloverfield, the first one. And yeah, he knows the story world, and that's the thing about Matt Reeves. He develops a very well coordinated story world for these actors to kind of play in, and he does the same here. This story world is dark, it's hopeless, it's dreary, it's depressing, it's noir. That's what noir is, and he nails it. He nails the story world perfectly. You know, just the way he sets everything up, tells a great story. I like Matt Reeves. The one thing that I will say again is the runtime. That third act just runs way too long, and I put that on the director. And then the other thing was he kind of feels constrained by that PG-13 rating. And I hope for the next film, Matt Reeves just says, hey, you know, we're going to make a rated R Batman movie, and that's it. That's what we're doing. Because I think Matt Reeves making a rated R film that will actually unleash a lot more of his creativity and he'll do a better job. But nevertheless, great one on this one. I'm going to go ahead and give direction an 8. All right, so next up is the script and the story. Now, this one was tough for me because I do like the story overall, but I was a little upset. And again, this is a negative against it. And it might just be me. It might just be me. And it kind of sounds nitpicky, I have to admit. But I do not like the whole, hey, again, with the corrupt officials, the corrupt government, and everybody's working for the mob. It's like, okay, we've seen that, we've done that, we've been there. Can we go on to something else? Can we try something different? You know, because for me, it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. Gotham is like that. We all know that Gotham is this city of corruption. And it's just like every story seems to just circle around that. It's like, okay, isn't there anything some other kind of story through line that we can play with other than just it's corruption again? So I'm not a fan of rehashing like similar themes and similar through lines that we've seen in previous movies. I'd rather them go in a different direction. That's just me personally. Again, sounds nitpicky, but whatever. And then the other part with the script was that it was a very long third act because of Catwoman's like little insert, the little piece about her and her little background and everything. It was forced. It just kind of came in there and I didn't understand why they had to do it in that fashion. So yeah, that kind of was a negative. Another one was, and again, it was again just a slight little piece of social commentary. It's like, okay, we haven't been doing this all film long, and then suddenly it's in there when it wasn't there before. Like it wasn't there and then it's there, and it's like, where did that come from? You know, so I wasn't terribly put off by it, but it is a negative against it. So overall, script and story, still a good story. Script was great, dialogue, all that stuff, perfectly fine. I'm gonna go ahead and give that a 7.5. All right, next up, acting. All right, so here is the best part of the film, in my opinion, was the acting. All the actors did a great job, every last one of them, and there's no bad performances by anybody. So the only negative that I can really think of, and it did bother me, and not just making up a negative to make it negative, but the thing that did bother me was Zoe Kravitz and her as Catwoman. Like Zoe Kravitz is just a little person. She's just tiny. She's little. You know, she's like 5'2", a $105, and you just don't buy it when you see her going up against these grown giant men. Not giant, but you know what I'm saying. Like, she just looks little. Like, nah, man, you would get worked. You know, I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. Not that she's a bad actress. She actually does the little stunts. I think it was her, and those all, you know, feel real and all of that. But then you just gotta like, could this little child really take down somebody like that? I don't buy it. So, you know, from that standpoint, and that's, you know, again, that's on the acting, maybe it's on the casting director, I don't know. But nevertheless, yeah, 5.7, 5.8 for Catwoman from now on, you know, just my thoughts. Okay, but acting was great. I'm gonna give that a 9. And then finally, the sights and sounds of this film. Let me tell you, this is a great marriage of a soundtrack to an environment. Like, the soundtrack of this film was great. It's Michael Giacchino that did the soundtrack. Phenomenal job. It is, like I said, it's a perfect marriage. Ebony and Ivory working together in perfect harmony. The sight, the way this thing looks, the darkness, the dankness, the feeling of despair raining all the time, and then that music that just comes in and it just follows. It was so funny when I'm watching this with a crowd, and then we left the theater, you could hear people still like humming the soundtrack and just laughing and having a good time with it because it's such an important part of this film. I love the soundtrack. Now, there are some issues site-wise. If there was anything that was perfect, it was the soundtrack. Now, there are some issues site-wise. You know, a couple of camera angle choices and things that just kind of threw me off a little bit. The car chase in particular is the thing that I'm thinking about. A lot of like rapid up close in your face kind of shots that just kind of like, okay, it's intense and I get it. But I felt like the car chase was a little bit off-putting. Thought it was just too in your face, and I wanted a wider shot just to kind of see it all unfold and play out. That's one of the things that Christopher Nolan does really good, by the way. But nevertheless, I did like the sights and sounds. Overall, I give it a 9. And so when you do the math for all of the scores, you're going to end up with a grand total of 8.5. All right, so that is my review of The Batman. Tell me what you thought about the film, if you've seen it already. Go ahead and drop some comments down below, and also give it a like if you're still hanging out. I appreciate that. All right, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. All right, so here we go. The updated rankings. Batman sitting on top of the world, at least for now anyway. And then you got The Cursed at number 2, Death on the Nile at number 3, Scream number 4, and Uncharted at number 5. So yeah, I didn't realize there's a couple of movies that's coming out this month. I thought everybody was clearing the way out for Batman, and nah, there's like a couple of horror movies that I want to see. X. That's going to be coming up later on this month. And then there's one called Uma. Not sure how to pronounce it, but I just saw the trailer for it, and I mean, that thing looks great. I can't wait for that to come out. And then there's The Lost City. I plan on checking that out. I'm not sure if that's a romantic comedy or whatever, but I'll see what's up with that one. So yeah, that's the list for right now. So we'll see what happens. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.